This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Giles Alderson, our friend from the Filmmakers Podcast, and a very talented and experienced producer and director of many feature films. We're excited to dive into this conversation today. It's episode 13 of Truly Independent.
Darren, good to see you.
You too, my friend. Man, it's so fun rolling into these episodes every week. It's like my favorite thing on the calendar. So it's good to see you. We have an exciting guest today, Garrett. We've got a really exciting guest today.
Yeah. You've booked a heavy hitter, so we won't waste time too much with the intro. We want to chat with Giles.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. But we should talk about movies we've seen, and we should talk about box office. So I'm proud to announce that I watched an independent film this week. The Sundance darling, can we call it a darling? Aliens abducted my parents, and now I feel kind of left out. And we know this movie, like our friend Jake directed it, and we have a lot of probably actor friends. Jacob Buster, who our friend Michael Buster's son was the lead in that, and just a really great movie. Like, I watched it with April, and we loved the film. It was so well done, and it was such a great film. And my goodness, congrats to them for getting it out there.
You can definitely say Sundance darling, because I was there at the Sundance screening for that film, and Jake was just so excited and just glad for him. Jake has been a producing partner on some of my earlier films, and to see him now just hit a home run with Aliens abducted my parents, and now I feel kind of left out, was just so exciting to see him do that. And it did. I mean, it won like best some audience choice or best family or whatever it was at Sundance.
Wow.
No
That's
small
awesome.
feat.
Yeah. Well, congrats to them and the team at Kaleidoscope and everybody that worked on it. A lot of our friends. I'm going through the end scroll, just going, oh my gosh, all my friends worked on this movie.
Where did you watch it? Did you end up watching
it? On,
were you able to stream it?
Yeah, it's on Peacock now, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
pretty great.
Well, they found a good sales agent, and it's fun to see good things happening with that movie. And Jake is somebody we should have him on a podcast at some point.
We definitely should have Jake on. Jake, if you're listening, give us a call. You have our numbers.
Yeah, we'll call him. We'll call you, Jake. Let's see. What did I watch? Well, I watched Faith of Angels because we screened it last week in Idaho, which was wonderful to screen with an audience and see them respond. And when it was a packed house, we turned away. Have we reported on this yet?
No,
this is it. So,
no, it was Thursday night. So
yeah, so we did a screening in Idaho Falls, and this was an executive producer screening for his family, but we ended up renting out a theater of 227 seats and putting it out there on Eventbrite and promoting it, and ended up probably turning away 100 people because the place was packed, and they showed up at 6:00. The screening wasn't until 7. I showed it about 6:20, and I'm like, I think I'll get there early. And when I went to the theater in the auditorium, there were people like waiting for the movie to start at 6:20.
Oh my gosh!
And which was exciting. The momentum is building. The film played well, and it was fun to see it in a theater setting.
Gosh, that's so cool. You're going to make everybody jealous, though, because you keep watching our movie and they can't buy tickets yet. So
probably by the time this one releases, this podcast
will pretty close. You can go buy tickets probably. So make sure you do that and go see the movie opening weekend.
Which is an interesting talking point. I mean, and maybe we don't need to get into that, or we could. But as we are booking, that's one of the things that we keep running into is like, okay, what are the calls to action? As we're getting into this campaign rollout, here we are, we're recording this first week of August. We don't release the movie until September 12th in limited theaters, and then September 26th in wide theaters. But what is the campaign? What is the call to action to keep people coming back, keep people interested? And at what point do we not want to like build momentum because we don't want to peak too early? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, the call to action now is listen to the podcast. It's awesome.
yeah.
And then that's how you get your info on the movie when it comes out. Yeah, it's really a good question, and it's one of those things that we're kind of keeping top of mind as we're working with the team who's over social, who's over email blasts, and who's over all these different aspects of the marketing to make sure we have coherent and consistent messaging. And so that, like you said, we're not peaking too early. A lot of time I've heard just yesterday, I heard it many times, like 6 weeks out is kind of the sweet spot to start your run up. It's like, oh, okay, well then I should not be too stressed that there's not a lot going out right now, because yesterday I was a little bit like, why are we talking about this? This movie comes out in 5.5 weeks. Like, come on, everybody. And they're like, calm down, Darren. You might just be overreacting a little bit. Like, okay, you guys know what you're doing.
Well, it is a familiar feeling though, because I mean, I feel the same way. It's like I'm exhausted already, and we haven't even started. I mean, we're not even building momentum right now. We're just like laying the foundation. And to me, I'm like, when are people going to start talking about this movie? But if you were to ask me right now, what movies come out in 5.5 weeks, and what is available? I mean, I'd be like, okay, well, I mean, I think I've seen the trailer for Beetlejuice. I'm excited to go see that movie. I'm not buying tickets for it right now. Like, and there's not, we're not seeing Beetlejuice premieres everywhere or anything like that right now. They've released the trailer. They have a website. You can't go buy tickets right now. So from an independent perspective, I can relax a little bit and be like, okay, we're on track. We're on track to get the movie out there and to start spreading the word.
Yeah. Well said. Should we look at the box office?
Yes.
Ooh.
Top 10 again.
My gosh. Look at this.
Again, here we are. Let's see. Again, the weekend of the August 6th is when we're recording this. So previous weekend, August 2nd through 4th. And here it is. The same play that we're talking about, Running with the Carpenter, is opening on 600 screens, trying to break into the top 10 with a good per screen average. Does that exist? There it is on number 9. The movie The Firing Squad, starring Kevin Sorbo, it's like a faith-based true story movie, did $893,000 on 800 screens, and it broke the top 10.
Yeah. Well, and here's what's encouraging for me is like I'm looking at that movie and it has a $1,102 per screen average. So there's also something to be said about they could have done 400 screens and a 2,000 per screen average. They still would have been there. So that's getting a little closer to our strategy for Faith of Angels as well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily need 600, 800,000 screens. Like you could do it.
Yeah. What's Atlas Distribution Company? Congratulations to them. They've done, we've met with them and they've got a very calculated model of similar, let's select our screens and find our audience, build our audience, and take this movie to them. They're not, I know that they're not spending a lot on excess screens, for an ego trip to say, hey, we're releasing on this many. No, they're being very targeted, and congrats to them, and it's working.
Yeah, and to almost do $1 million opening weekend on an indie on 800 screens, that's huge. It's a massive accomplishment. They should be really, really proud of their efforts there. So that's a movie I need to check out. Very cool.
Yeah, congrats to them.
Yeah.
Okay, Darren, should we get to our guest?
Well, we're really excited. We have our friend Giles Alderson from the Filmmakers Podcast, also an experienced writer, director, producer, very, very talented filmmaker. So excited to have him today. Let's dive into it. Hey, indie filmmakers and movie lovers. This show is sponsored by Purdy Distribution. Since 2011, they've been bringing incredible independent films to theaters, like Garrett Batty's The Saratov Approach, T.C. Christensen's Love Kennedy, and McLean Nelson's Once I Was a Beehive. They've worked with top-notch directors like Mitch Davis and Mark Goodman, specializing in family, faith-based, and funny films. This year alone, they've released hits with JK Studios like Go West and Villains Inc., and have even branched out internationally with films shot in South Africa and Japan. Purdy Distribution works closely with indie filmmakers, designing personalized distribution plans, whether it's a theatrical release or straight to streaming on platforms like Amazon, iTunes, Google, and more. If you have a PG or PG-13 film ready for the world, think about reaching out to Purdy Distribution. They're approachable and knowledgeable, ready to help you visualize your film's distribution. Even if your film isn't fully polished, they can offer valuable guidance. Plus, if you need that crucial distribution piece for investor packages, Purdy Distribution can provide a letter of intent to distribute, helping you secure funding without locking you into a contract. Mark your calendars for Purdy Distribution's upcoming releases: Tokyo Cowboy on August 30th, the digital release of Thabo and the Rhino Case on September 1st, Faith of Angels in theaters on September 12th, Villains Inc. on Amazon and iTunes on October 1st, and The Carpenter on November 1st. To stay updated on these releases and more, sign up for their newsletter at purdydistribution.com. That's P-U-R-D-I-E distribution.com. Now, back to the show. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We have an incredible guest with us here today, Giles Alderson, writer, director, producer, and host of the Filmmakers Podcast. Welcome. You're here.
Woohoo! Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Of course. Oh, I'm glad this worked out. Thank you. I know you were braving traffic and all these things, and we're just really grateful to be able to chat with you for a little bit. So to start, can you give us some context? You have a really amazing kind of experience and resume and all these things. So give us a little bit of context about who you are and what you do in film.
Yeah, I was an actor for years, so I was lucky enough to be in Oscar winners films. Tom Hooper's film I was in, The Damned United, was a football film, and being a footballer as a kid, I managed to play for a couple of good soccer teams, should we call them, but football teams. And yeah, so to be in a movie where you got to be a footballer was incredible. And I did quite a few cool little movies like that with some nice people, bits of telly, but it was when I stepped behind the camera that I loved and fell in love with that side of it. And I moved into producing and directing pretty quickly, and then spent 10 years working out how to actually do that. And then luckily enough, a really good friend of mine, Julian Kostov, put me in touch with New Bayana Studios, and Yarev Lerner there took a chance on me as a feature film director, and I got to make The Dare, which is my debut movie. And from there, I made Arthur and Merlin and Wolves of War for signature, and then A Stranger in Our Bed as a director. And then I've produced movies like Repeat, Followers, Serial Killer's Guide to Life, and recently 3-Day Millionaire, which did incredibly well on Netflix. Very, very proud and happy of that movie. I've also made a few documentaries as well, including my vegan documentary, which hopefully will be out soon. I need to finish it. But yes, I love making films. I love doing it. I love talking about making films and helping other people make their films as well.
Man, that's awesome. And what a great summary. And you summed up, 25 years of career in 2 minutes.
To be honest, that's probably best to do that. It's the best of it. The rest of it's just hard work and trawling through.
There's a lot of hard work that's involved for sure. Well, I was fascinated to meet you, and Darren, I was thrilled when Darren said we've got an incredible guest, and so thank you very much for being on this. We've got a couple of questions and discussions, and Darren, I just jumped in here, but I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're excited, so you're welcome.
I'm so excited because everything you've described, except for the actor part, has been me of like, okay, we want to figure out how to do this, and you take your time to figure out how to do this, and every time we do it is something different, something new. But this is about you, and we're so glad that you'd be able to share some time with us to do this. I wanted to find out, just starting as far as like you've not only made films but have over 400 episodes of interviewing filmmakers and talking about films. there's got to be some similarities. You say, hey, talking to all of these people as an independent filmmaker, these are some things that you are going to have to go through or face or experience with whatever your project is. Are there a few things that you can say, hey, here's what most people don't know about independent film, but here's what they will learn if they do one?
Yeah, I think learning to edit was a huge part of me becoming a much better filmmaker. Learning the ins and outs of why a director or an editor would choose a certain shot or not. Back when I was acting, I didn't understand. And then as soon as you started editing, you totally got why you'd use that certain shot, because it's the only one that had continuity. It was the only one that made sense. It was the only one that was in focus. It was the only one where someone wasn't blinking in or making a face in the background or the sound was any good. They're all the things you do not know as an actor. You have no idea. You just don't understand why they didn't use the take where you felt you were the best. And as soon as you get behind the camera or behind what filmmaking is and learn it, that is incredibly powerful. It helped me massively as a director to know what shots I needed, to know why I was thinking about a certain feeling on set, and then go, no, but hang on, what's my cut point? What's the next scene? What's the end of this scene? And it's something that a lot of filmmakers don't think about. They just go, get this scene, right, next one. And the edit, they get them, they go, oh yeah, we've just cut in from a wide to a wide because I have got nothing else. There's no transition, no thought process. There's no color mix between the two. Is there a different lens size? Is there a different shade of how you're thinking about the shot or a feeling? Is it now handheld? Is it on sticks? Does that cut? All those kind of things are so important, and you don't know that until you've been in the edit room and you've sat there and gone through that process of all the mistakes you make as a filmmaker and seeing it and go, oh God, why didn't I just get one more? Or why did I do that? Why the eye line's wrong? We crossed the line, all these things. And as soon as you get in the edit, you go, right, next time. And the more you do it, the more you learn. Editing was one of the biggest things I learned. The other one, and I feel this is really important, is who you work with. I spent the first 10 years, I glossed over it very quickly there in my sort of intro, but 10 years from moving from an actor when I directed my first sort of pilot short to actually making a feature film. And in that 10 years, I just was relying on everyone else to do the work for me. And as Mark Duplass says, as so many other people say, and I've said it on my podcast many times, the cavalry is not coming. They are not waiting there with an open checkbook or saying, you are the one. Yes, we want you. And we all think it is like that. And it is not. And you've got to do it. You've got to be the one to go out there and go, I'm going to make this happen, because if I don't do it, no one else will. And they're the two biggest lessons. And I wish I'd learned them both way earlier.
I love that. I love that quote from Mark Duplass, and I hear that a lot. And my follow up to that is the realization that you are the cavalry. As somebody that has done it, you are the cavalry. The cavalry is you, and so they're not necessarily coming for you, but my goodness, we can help others take that next step. Like there is that element of in some support. This team that we've built to help us make this film, that's the cavalry. But I love that. What a great and the experience as far as sitting in an edit bay. I can't tell you.
I learned to edit myself as well. So it wasn't like I was sitting over someone's shoulder looking at stuff. I had to ingest all this stuff into it. Was I think I was using Final Cut Pro, and I didn't know how to work it. I had no idea, but I'd got myself into a fix or bind where I was making something for someone, and it was probably a corporate video, and it was hours and hours of footage, and I had no idea how to turn this into something, and I banged my head against a brick wall, and I cried, and I got upset, and I got angry, and it kept crashing, and I kept losing stuff, but I persevered, and I watched YouTube videos, and I went, no, I am going to do this. I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And that's something that I'm really proud of. To be honest, I had no choice. I had to deliver this thing, and I had no money. I had to. I literally had to. I didn't have the reliance on, I'll bring someone else in. I had to learn how to do this. And my gosh, it was so painful. I can't tell you. But yes.
But it works out. I mean, it comes out.
Know that pain.
Yes.
That becomes a skill for for whatever it is, for your next project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Giles, right now, for your context, because I don't know if you listen to our podcast or not, you probably have plenty of other things to do with your life.
Do, of course.
But we're in the middle of releasing 2 of our movies that we've produced in the last 2 years. Yeah. And so I'd love to hear from your experience. What are some of the things that you're thinking about, maybe even at the beginning or during the middle of a project, to have a successful outcome, whether that is theatrical or streaming or direct, it doesn't matter. But like, I know that you have distributed your movies. So that's not something that just magically happens because you made a movie and someone goes, oh, great, now here's your distribution card. It's not like that. So what are some of the things that you're thinking about as a director, as a producer, as someone who's putting a project together from the beginning to help you achieve that really successful outcome?
Yeah, the producer head on me, it's very different to the director head. The director head is, cool, someone else is doing that, great. I will chime in, I will have my say, but they know what they're doing and they'll get on with it. When it's me as the producer, I'm the one who's got to do that and make those decisions and thoughts. And it is so important to do it from the beginning. It can't be reiterated enough. Like, who's your audience, for one thing? Who wants to see your film? And it isn't everyone. That's just not true. It could be niche. And take my vegan film, for example. It's a vegan documentary about the vegan lifestyle, the plant-based living, etc., etc. It's something I was passionate about. And I was like, well, I'm making movies. Why don't I do something I care about? And from the very beginning, we targeted who is our audience. Very niche. Great, let's target that specific audience. And we did a crowdfunder at first, a Kickstarter, and we raised 75 grand. Incredible amount of money to raise on a crowdfunder. But what we did was we targeted people. We targeted the first week animal lovers, the second week environmental lovers, the third week we targeted plant-based people. So we really specifically honed every single tweet, video, message, all our emails out there. And it's the same thing when you're starting a project. There is no difference, except you might not be emailing and sending out your tweets and messages, but it is, who is the audience for your film? You know, if you're making a comedy, okay, well, who's the best distributor or sales agent for this? Let's contact them now, because if we're casting someone who's wrong for that market, for that type of brand that you're looking for, this movie is not going to sell, or it's going to be a harder sell. You'll have to make an amazing movie. And as much as we all aim to do that, sometimes things go against us. Weather, locations, crew, actors, so many things happen on a movie set that go wrong that make your film come down a peg, shall we say. We all have these ridiculously high aspirations and we aim for those, as we should, but we cannot help it. It's out of our hands most of the time, and we have to just accept that, you know, the sound is a bit poor there, or that is out of focus on that shot, or all these things we just have to accept. It's part of indie filmmaking. We can't afford the luxury of going again and again and again. So it is, for me, it's vital that you know who your audience is and who you're selling it to. And that comes down to speaking to distributors and sales agents now. What we did on 3 Day Millionaire, which was my comedy that I produced, we thought about who our domestic audience would be and who our domestic sales agent would be from the very beginning. And if I got them on board, it meant that I could now sell it around the rest of the world using their name, because they're a decent big name, for leverage. And for the fact that they're very good at what they do and they sell these kind of movies. Luckily, they did come on board and they did want to sell the film in the UK. They're called Signature Entertainment and they're very good at what they do. It just meant that was before we'd even made the movie. And it meant that I could then think about, I didn't have to worry, and my investors loved that as well, because we had a route to market. We already knew that we were going to cinemas. We knew we were going to stream. It was already written out how we would distribute the movie, and that was just in the UK, which meant once I'd made the movie and we had potentially, you know, we're about to put it out now, I've got the rest of the world not in the palm of my hand, but interested in my movie, which they wouldn't be if I was now going, oh, I haven't got a UK distributor. Or whichever territory is yours, that is your biggest audience because it's yours. And every other distributor around the world or sales agent will go, who's the home buyer? And if you've got someone good or someone interesting, or even just someone, you've got way more attention to your project. People take you more seriously. I have found it worked for me. The downside to that is it means, you know, someone like a Universal wants to come and take the world, and they want to take everything, but you've already sold the UK or your domestic territory. That is a problem. However, if they want the film enough, and it is a small chance, but if they do want the film enough, they maybe overlook that. But I'm willing to take that chance on, an indie film that is very unlikely to get A24, unlikely to get Universal suddenly go, no, we want this for the world. So why not already have some money in the bank, impress your investors, and get ready to make the next one before you've even made that one.
I think
that goes back to your comment on the cavalry isn't coming. If you assume that the distributor is the cavalry, you got to assume that they're not coming. And if you have that leverage and you already go, well, I've already sold this and this, they actually see you as more desirable because you're someone who's created leverage and created value in a marketplace.
So true.
Not only that, we got, in my experience, when we've had a bigger distributor become interested in a title that already has somebody committed to it, that's good for that somebody that's committed to it. So we say, okay, small distributor, let me introduce you to, Samuel Goldwyn is distributing one of my films. And we go, okay. And Samuel Goldwyn says, great, I want to do it. They've already done, or find that market that they're already in and build on it. I don't think it doesn't hurt your movie to have an additional to anybody involved as far as distribution goes.
No, totally agree. And at the moment, we're literally about to deliver a latest produced movie called Dirty Boy. And with that movie, we have distributors and sales agents sniffing around right now. We screened at Cannes. It did incredibly well. We got some offers off the back of that screening. But we know this is a festival movie. This movie is not coming out until probably September next year. So our investors won't see, unless we get, an amazing MG, an amazing pre-sale right now, which is so unlikely because they hardly exist. And, you've got to win Sundance. You've got to win all the, South by free. And even then doesn't mean you're going to anyway. Right. So we're just being very clever about how we're showing people, everyone will ask for your movie. And it is quite a small industry, the sales and distribution industry, especially with the bigger players, let's say. And they do all talk. And they will say, hey, did you see Dirty Boy? Did you see 3-Day Millionaire? And they go, yeah, it's done. You're dead in the water because that word gets around and you can't now get your movie seen by anyone else, and you have to go down a few, grades, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not what you want. So you've got to be very careful about when you show people your film, and that people can jump. I've seen so many first-time directors or first-time producers before they've sold a film go, oh my God, someone's interested. Oh my God, this is amazing. Quick, show them the film. And they just don't even get back to them. And the word has got around. It's a big problem. Or they give them a shitty offer and they don't know how to deal with that. And they go, oh, we've got an offer and it sounds like we're going to make loads of money. No, look at the small print. And that's something else that's so important, is understanding what that small print is on those contracts. I never say that there is any necessarily... all right, maybe some of them are, a little bit unscrupulous, but at the end of the day, it's business. And with any business, someone's going to rip you off if they can, because it's business. So you've got to be savvier than the game, and you've got to understand that business and go, no, I won't accept these terms. And no, I will have a release clause after 3 months if you don't sell it. And I will do this. And what's amazing about all that kind of stuff is you can negotiate. You don't have to go for an 80-20 split or a 70-30 split. You can go for a 60-40 split and no marketing fees. You can do whatever you want. This is a negotiation. And that's what a lot of filmmakers don't understand or realize. This is a game. This is like going to a car boot sale. Hey, it says 20p for that, but actually 15. You never go to a car boot sale and pay what's on the sticker. So what is the difference in the filmmaking world or business world? Everyone is trying to undercut. Everyone's trying to get a good deal. So it's important you understand what those deals are as a producer or as someone trying to sell the film, and then go in and be prepared. It's so important. We've all been burnt and we've heard the stories. So don't get burnt. Learn from it.
How do you know? Yes, we've all been in that situation where the word gets out of the film and you get a dozen. They're almost just like these template emails that say, "Hey, we heard about your movie and we are Audience Alliance Distribution or whatever it is, and we'd
love to see your movie. It sounds perfect. This sounds amazing."
And as a first-time filmmaker, that's very flattering. And you're like, "Oh, wow, we did it. We broke through. And then, a year later, you're going, I haven't heard from these guys, but I have a contract and what's going on. So are there indicators, that you say, okay, here's what I look for. I look at catalog, or I look at past sales or projections?
Catalog really, I mean, it's important. If you're selling a horror film, you want to be with a catalog, that's horror films. If you're selling romantic comedy, don't be on the horror film, because they might just be taking it to fit a box, and they know they can sell this with a load of other movies.
Right.
But the thing to be honest, the thing that I look for is marketing cap. I look for expenditure within their company, because technically every deal is really about the same. It's an 80-20 split. Is usually the top end. That's what you want as a filmmaker, an 80-20 split, 80 to you, 20 to them. However, it's the marketing costs that get you. It's the expenditure that gets you. It's all these little things that are in the contract that can just trip you over. Yeah. So it just takes away. So it's like, oh yeah, you get to 80-20 once we have made that money back. Well, they might never make that money back, because they've got their, costs for going to exhibitions. So they're going to Cannes. Well, that's part of, you have to pay exactly what another filmmaker. So let's say both of us, our films, one of mine, one of yours, is in Cannes with the same sales and distributor. They're charging us the same amount of money. We're both getting charged for that, and they've got a catalogue of how many. So a lot of filmmakers are being charged for this amount. So it's kind of like, yes, I understand it costs a lot to go to these festivals, and it is important for them to be there. But with your small indie, now you're getting lumped in with everyone else, and therefore you're now not going to make money for quite a while. And you can combat that by saying, all right, well, why do you need all these marketing spends? What are you doing at these? If you want my film, and you think we can get a good deal, all right, let's go 60-40. Let's go 70-30 and no marketing costs. That's where you're clever as a filmmaker, and you can get some money back for your investors.
It's so insightful. And things that I wish I'd known with my first movie, and now I'm glad I know with these later titles.
Yeah, we're glad we know now. There's so many more of these little tips and tricks on this sort of stuff, but they're the main ones. And get an attorney to look at it, get a media lawyer. I know most people don't have money at this stage, but that's the only way you're going to make money is selling your film. And if you've done a bad deal because you don't understand the business, hey, what's maybe £1,000 on a lawyer to properly look at this and go, yeah, you're being ripped, or a fellow filmmaker. There's so many cool filmmakers out there who will look at that for you and go, mate, why don't sign this? That's ridiculous. And actually, that's where we should help each other even more. I don't know why people don't do this. Hey, would you mind just glancing your eyes at this contract? And I go, yeah, don't sign that in a million years. They just don't. So many of my filmmaker pals didn't come to me with the contracts. I'm like, why didn't you come to me? I'd have said, no, get that out. Oh, it's too late, we've signed it. No, but they've said we're going to do this. Those things don't happen. And suddenly they're in the swamp of never seeing a penny, and their movies are doing really well. And I think that's probably one of the harder things for a filmmaker to go through, is people know their film's doing really well and people see it doing really well, and there's no money coming back for the filmmaker or the people who worked on it. That's not cool. You'd rather the film didn't. Well, no, you wouldn't. You'd still rather your film did well. But it is a little bit like, it's painful. It's like, so it's understanding the legal sides is it's just part of being a filmmaker,
Yeah. I think that's there is that element of, you've talked about being a director and, sitting in the edit bay and learning that whole process of the creative process. And now you shift gears to the business side of it, and say, look, a first-time filmmaker is going to learn those creative process. In order to repeat, you have to learn this business side as well.
Yes.
Giles, you've interviewed, you got 400 episodes on your podcast. You've done over 20 movies. One of the things that questions I had, what's that? Am I wrong in that?
It's like a high five, man.
High five in it. Oh, it's just, I was up till, God,
You're exhausted. No wonder why you're so
I'm exhausted. I was up till 2:30 last night, editing and uploading a podcast, and then I was on set for this advert today as well. So it was, it's just, sometimes it's part of it. You're like, sometimes you go, why do I do this? Then you remember, you go, no, because it helps, and you wish you had this when you started, like you guys doing this. It's so, you're just giving back what you can, but sometimes it does make me think. You go, but it's exhausting. But high five, yeah, we'll high five it.
Cool, it's where we want to be. Tell me about the importance of a producer. And the reason this question comes from, in one of your recent episodes, you were talking with a producer who she emphasized just like in choosing projects, that she just chooses projects that she thinks are going to be fun and make sure that that's like a fun environment. We do this, and it is exhausting and tiring, and every day is just this swarm of problems that we have to solve. And yet we finally get out of it and get a film out there. We're like, wow, that's great. We made some money back. Awesome. Let's do it again. And either we're just like masochists, or there's something, I don't know. What is the value of having a producer that says, guys, we're doing this for fun?
I think it's a fine balance, but it's really important to, like, as I mentioned, to find the right people. I think one of the hardest things as well as a filmmaker is to let go of people. It's really hard because you're working with someone on a project, you're going through something, and sometimes it just isn't working. And I think people get bogged down in that. Sometimes they go, no, but we're doing this together. And it's okay sometimes to have that conversation. It can be difficult, but to just be like, this isn't working, is it? We should actually part ways. That would be better for us. It happened to me years ago, and actually it was better. It did work out for both of us in the end, but it's really difficult to do that. So it's so important to have if you're a director, the right producer around, if you're, the filmmaking team behind it, to have the right team with you. But you also want someone who is going to be in the trenches and going, yeah, this is so hard and so ridiculous and I'm so tired, but let's do it again tomorrow. And they're the people you want with you, the ones who will battle so hard and push it up the hill and be there till 4 a.m. and then back up at 6, moving cars to be in the right place, and then again, going again and going again and going again. And if you haven't got those people on your team, you suddenly you're pulling weight and you're trying to do all these things. And if you're the director, you need someone who's going to do that for you. And if you're the producer, you need someone in the trenches with you who's going to do that so you don't feel alone. And I think producing can be the loneliest job. If it's just you, it can be really lonely and really difficult when you're in charge of everything and the money and you've got all those worries on your shoulders and you're frightened to hell, and the director's going, oh, well, why can't we just get the Steadicam out? If we get the Steadicam that day, I'll get the shot. And you really want to say yes. And your job most of the time as a producer is to say no to people. And it's really hard when someone goes, but I deserve some more money. And you go, yeah, I know. But what I try and remember at the end of that is we're the ones who get paid last. We're the ones who go through it all and actually spend 2-3 years on a project. And if you work out the money, is nowhere near close enough. So that's when I feel not so bad, when sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, there just isn't any money. What do you want to do? You want to walk? I don't know what you want me to say. Well, let me try and do something else for you. That's really hard. And that's when you got to have a tough skin. You've got to be prepared to lose. You've got to be prepared to fight and pick up whatever it is yourself. If you're prepared to do that, then people will go to battle with you and go, all right, fine. But if you're swanning around, turning up late, eating the junk food, and just swanning around being that producer, people will go, hang on a minute. But if they can see you picking up stuff and see you putting the graft in, people go, yeah, all right, I respect that. And I think that's the difference between those great producers, those ones you find, those gems who just battle through with you, and the other ones who are just there for their glory, and there isn't much glory in it. So, yeah, that's where the battle begins.
Yeah, that's super insightful.
Yeah. So I think we've got time for one more question with you. Thank you again for your time. And, I know it's the end of your day over there in London. So it's like, oh man, just let me go to bed and eat some dinner. But in that order, right? If only. So you've done 400 episodes. You've chatted with, world-class filmmakers. I mean, the dream list of the people I'd love to talk to and hang out with when I'm thinking about, my film heroes, the Chris McQuarries of the world and stuff.
Yes.
But you've also talked to a lot of independent filmmakers. And so curious if there's something that you've noticed between the two. Like, is there an essential characteristic, or is there anything that the people who are able to do a movie again and again and again and stay in this industry, because it can be hard to keep a career going. Is there anything that comes to mind or a highlight from those, hundreds of episodes, hundreds of conversations you've had around film?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I've seen in terms of why a film gets made is there are thousands of different reasons how and why a film will get made. The reason why I feel that people have that you can just see it and feel it, is it's a kind of passion that is so controlled. It's this intense, wonderful yearning and learning for perfection and for being at one with filmmaking. And they're the ones, the Christopher McQuarrie episode. I mean, I was sat in a room with Christopher McQuarrie and it was like being in filmmaker heaven. You couldn't have, I can still picture it now. I can still feel the room. I can feel him in the room and him taking on that energy. And I was trying to get a word in edgeways because he's just brilliant. Was just incredible. And that dedication rings through in, out of the 400 I've done, most of them would probably come back on again because they're making another film. Because if the fact that especially indie filmmakers, have reached out and said, I want to come on the podcast, they're already taking an interest in their career because not everyone, they sit back and go, oh, the PR will do that for me. This will do that. If a filmmaker emails me, well, that makes a huge difference because you can clearly see the passion. They care. They want to be heard and want to get their film out there. And then the bigger Oscar winners and stuff, it's quite obvious why they're in this industry and why they're doing well and why they have the consistency. And it's dedication, it's learning your craft to an inch of its life. And it's actually probably being a little bit naive as well. It's that kind of, I have nothing to lose here. This is what I want. So do you know what? I'm just going to email Ian McKellen. Do you know what? I'm just going to email someone else massive because you have nothing to lose. And so what if they say no? And that's what I've got. That's what I've learnt from why I feel people are still in this industry, because they just won't take no for an answer.
Wow.
Gosh, I love that answer. We're clipping that up and putting it all over the internet because everyone needs to hear that from you.
Excellent.
Gosh, thank you so much for your time today. Giles, where can people learn more about you, what you're working on? Where should we send people?
I mean, the podcast is a great place, the Filmmakers Podcast, because I'm often updating people on what I'm doing on there. I'll keep a lot of stuff to myself because, as we know, sometimes as indie filmmakers, you put stuff out and suddenly it doesn't happen. It can happen too many times, and sometimes putting it out there makes it worse, or you haven't signed stuff yet. So sometimes I'm a little bit cautious, but because I run it with a load of other filmmakers or, a load of other hosts come on and, we chat. They're making films. We're all making films. So because of that, I feel that would be the best place to learn a lot about me. I've got my website, gilesalderson.com. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I am often posting on there what I'm doing, especially when I'm on set. So if I'm on set, I will post and be like, day one, this is what happened. I really do kind of fill that back in on Instagram and Twitter. So that's where you can find me, Giles Alderson, on those places. And yeah, I'll just try and give back, and I'll try and answer messages and questions from people about, they're starting their careers, and I'll do my best. So that's the place, really. You can try and learn about mine. I just don't know. I'm still learning. I still feel like I'm like, yeah, okay, I might have made some films, but I tell you what, someone else come and teach me as well. You still feel in that place. So, which is why it's humbling to do the podcast and meet these amazing people and just go, oh my God, wow, to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
And just on the flip side of that, which is quite interesting, I've had Oscar winners say to me, I don't know how you keep getting movies made. And they're struggling to get movies made. And they're going, I don't understand how you can just keep making another one. And I go, yeah, well, maybe they're in a smaller league to you sometimes, because it's sometimes harder to maybe get the 20, 50 million pound movies made, maybe, than it is to get the, anything under from 10 grand up to, 3 mil. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I've heard it quite a lot.
I think it's a challenge no matter what. I mean, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Kevin Costner making Horizons and having to fund it himself, or Coppola with Megalopolis, and you just go, we're all in this business. Like, there is no easy way to make a movie. There's no easy way. So,
yeah, there isn't. And I think sometimes Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes the bigger you get, the further up the chain you get, the harder it is, because there's more gatekeepers. There's more people to say, oh, no, you've got to have Margot Robbie in it. No, we can't make this film unless it's, 30 million. And you're like, well, hang on, I just made a movie for 100 grand. That's amazing. You love me and my film did well. But I know so many filmmakers who haven't made their second or third film because of this, because they're getting trapped in this kind of, you must do this. It's like, no. Do what the Duplass brothers did. They went through that whole period and went, actually, no, we're not making movies here. We're just talking about making movies. Let's go make a movie.
And
that's where you should be, right? Go make a movie. Go do it and see what happens and learn from it and get better.
Amen.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Giles. It's just a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for your time. And hopefully you get some dinner and get a good night's rest.
Thanks so much, both of you. This has been real pleasure to chat to you. Cheers.
All right. Hey, keep in touch, man. Good luck with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, Giles is great. Man, some of those, I'm like, want to go now and just grab his sound bites and put them online and like champion those statements and those thoughts, because those principles he was sharing were just so essential for filmmakers to really embody and go, okay, this is how it works. This is the job. This is how we get the things made that we want made. I loved it. Great episode. Great interview.
It was fascinating. And there's nobody with more experience about talking to other filmmakers than him. And so that was so cool to hear just him summarize things that he has learned from talking with so many filmmakers. It's great. What a great find. Thanks
True story.
for having him on there.
Oh, of course. I'm lucky to know some people in film, so he's definitely high on my list. I look forward to chatting with him again. My goodness. So there was one thing that he said that I actually did want to pull up, where he was talking about the producer and kind of how they need to show up. And your question was so great about, like, having fun on set and having it be something that's enjoyable. And my comment was, it's really on the producer to show up that way. Like, it's not something that just naturally happens where, oh, because you're the producer, you're happy all the time. I think the opposite is more common than that, where producer is often the orneriest person on set. They're the one that's got the shortest fuse and will snap at people and will be upset and will default to whatever the worst case scenario is and react accordingly. And my take on it is that as a producer, I'm very cognizant of how am I showing up on set. And if I'm frustrated or mad or stern or whatever it is, I might not walk on set until I can calm down and reset, because if we set the tone, the producer really sets the tone on set. And if you're having a good time, everyone else is allowed to have a good time. But if you're frustrated or you're stressed or there's a problem that you can't solve right away in the way you want to solve it, that can like really spread throughout a crew very quickly and ruin a day. Like, you could mess up an entire day of filming with a bad attitude. And some producers approach the job every day that way. So one of the ways that I ensure that I can show up and be that way on set every day is I don't work every day on set. Like, I need the time in between movies to be able to work on other things and have that variety. And then I feel that pull of like, oh, I got to get back on set. I need another movie. And then I'm so excited to come in and do that every day. But I think it comes back to, that's part of the responsibility of the producer. It's your job to show up the way you want to show up and benefit all of those that are there to work for you.
I think that it is a conscious choice. It has to be a conscious choice before you get on set, before you start even in production. You're in pre-production. So what is the type of movie that this is going to be? What is the type of set, the environment, the feel that we're going to be? And not only does the producer set that tone, but we hire that tone. And that's been part of our interview process when we're interviewing crew, and say, hey, this is not a yelling movie. Or this is a comedy. We want to be fun. Or this is a movie of a spiritual nature. We're going to maintain that sentiment throughout the process. The fight movie, we want to, we're going to be playing loud music and fun stuff on set, right? Just to set that tone. But all of that happens before, and is a conscious choice.
Yeah.
I loved what he talked about. As far as I want to address that, the cavalry is not coming. And I've heard that saying from the Duplass brothers, and somebody else mentioned that. I had a good friend that had a movie that did very well at Sundance, and he was ready for that experience of like, okay, I've made it. The next phone call, people are going to come after me for more work, and he says it just never happened, and that's such a there's so much truth in that, but and I think that as a filmmaker, as working filmmakers, and what we're doing is that knowing that the cavalry's not coming, the problem still is there, right? So what are we going to do about that? And I think that there's a valuable talking point to say, we are the cavalry. As soon as we build a crew, and I was doing that this morning, as you reached out and said, hey, let's see, this is coming up because we're doing a big cast, or we're doing a big promotional screening tonight for Faith of Angels. And so you said, should we reach out to the cast and crew? And to think back, it's like, wait, of course, like we are, that's who built the movie. That's the cavalry. And I'm going to work on their next film. They're going to work on my next film. We are all helping each other through this challenge of, this unsolvable problem of filmmaking.
Yeah. When you said, you are the cavalry, and you could take that two ways. First is you are the cavalry and it's just you. There's nobody else, and good luck. You have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. But I like the version of you are the cavalry, meaning you're building the cavalry. You're leading the cavalry. You're creating the cavalry that's going to be the audience and the team and everyone else that's going to be involved with the success of the movie. And I like that version of, okay, I'm going to build the cavalry. I'm going to lead the cavalry, and we're going to go get this, summit this mountain or whatever it is that we're trying to do. It's pretty cool.
Okay, that being said, where are we on the cavalry? What are our issues, or what are our concerns? What are our focus points this week in order to reach our goals for our September release and our 600 screen top 10, breaking in? Where are we at?
Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time actually before the episode today. We were on a call together and talking about strategy, like what should be happening that either we aren't seeing that it's happening. Let's verify that it's happening. Let's get some, let's get taps on things. Let's check in with things. I had a personal feeling that like, I need to up my game here. And you've mentioned this before, that Brandon's voice was echoing in your head late at night, but I heard it too yesterday of like, you can never do too much to, put your movie out there, to release your movie. And I'm just like, I could do more. And I felt that. And I'm like, I want to get into producer mode, and I want to produce the outcome of a really successful thing. So right now it's a lot of, we're starting the conversations with theaters. We're saying who are the ones we're identifying as our opening weekend here in Utah. How are we going to expand after that? And really diving into the data and looking at numbers and going, where have your films performed well in the past? Where have other comparable films performed well when they had a theatrical release? Can we start those conversations? Can we identify, 10 or 20 different chains that we could talk to their bookers and say, hey, let's reinvest some more into this relationship and put our movie out and do it together so that we all win. So that's really where my head's at. It's like, what are all the things that should be happening this week? Who's responsible for them, making sure they're happening and that they're on track so that we can hit our dates.
I love that part of you. I saw it like triggers, and you go, okay, Darren is now going into producer mode, where you're saying, we've built a great team. I mean, we've talked to Purdy on here. We've talked to Michelle, who's our publicist. We're going to talk to probably Film Frog eventually on here, who's our marketers. And that is a team, and they all have their MO and the way that they're going to release this film. We have the data to know how we can take it. We have a budget that's built that would know that what we can afford. And so now in producer mode, you're going around to your different players and saying, what do you need to succeed? How can can I do your job for you, but what do you need? What do you need to succeed? We need these theaters. What do you need to get to them? And it's just so cool to see. And it just never Like, I think that is the joy of like a producer, and be like, okay, we made the movie, we made the play. The movie's resonating with audiences. We found that out last week. We're finding it out tonight again. Like, people are really connecting. So now what's the next step for the producer? How can we do this again? We better make our money back.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because I think we're due for an episode about the numbers and really diving into some things. And I think next week might be the one to do that in, to really just show people what are the numbers we're actually looking at and how is that informing our decisions. And that's really top of mind, of like making sure we're making smart decisions that are based on reality and based on data and based on stuff we can grab onto, so that we can go, we're very, very, very confident if we do make this decision, it will help us get this result. Yeah. And I think that's a really good way to approach it.
Well, I can tell you, in the process of recording this call, I received an email back from our team about some numbers that I was asking for, and they're immediately responding, and here's this. And so we'll be able to now, yes, sit with these numbers and make hopefully some intelligent decisions about next steps. I'm excited. Yeah.
It's exciting.
Cool, man.
Very cool. Any questions from last week's episode? I didn't see any come in, but did any come in on your side?
No, I don't receive any. So that's great. It means we've answered them all.
Awesome. We did it. We can end the podcast. All questions have been answered.
No, we know how to release a movie now. It's perfect. No questions came in, but
end of show.
Yeah. No, but if you do have questions, if you are listening, and you'd like to ask thoughts, or there's something coming to your mind, send a comment. Go to where do they do that? 3Coin Pro.
3coinpro.com/podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the place.
Fill out the form, send a question. We'd love to address it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, another good one, another good episode. I'm excited for people to listen to this one today. Great interview. Thank you, Giles, for coming on. And all right, dude, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified of screenings, and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.